Hey everyone, it's Cory McCarthy, and welcome to another public Q&A event. Just a little heads up for everyone. Well, actually, I'll start waiting for people to start rolling in right now because we just started, so it's no use giving a statement now. But I'll probably do another one of these in a couple weeks. I'm kind of alternating with my Patreon Q&As. So the viewers are beginning to roll in. So welcome everyone to another public Q&A event. As per usual, you can use Super Chat to highlight your comment. It also kicks a donation to my channel for the work that I do here if you'd like to. There's also all my products and services linked below, and that includes my Patreon account as well, where I do private Q&A events on off weeks from here. So I'm going to jump over now to the comment section. So you can start kicking them into the sidebar like usual. Doomboy says, hey, Cory. Jackie Chong asks, have you seen the studies on flax and testosterone? It decreases it significantly. Actually, I have seen the studies on flax and testosterone, and I'm not convinced that it does. In fact, there's I did a video. If you look up, if you just look at my channel and type in the keywords flax and keno body, you'll get the video. I did a very comprehensive video that covered both soy and flax. I think it was Keno Body and Chris Walker or something like that. But they had made the assertion that flax lowers testosterone as well. And I showed how that's not the case in healthy humans. Hardin says, make veganism great again. That's a good point. Especially with all the intersectional madness. But yeah, I wouldn't be concerned about the whole flax thing. In fact, a lot of the studies that they have on flax, as I elaborate in the video and actually show them all, that actually show a detrimental effect are mostly on women. And they're mostly women that have pre-existing issues like diabetes, or they're postmenopausal, overweight and obese, that kind of thing. Or it's like one-off anecdote accounts that you can't really take that as like evidence to mass suggest that flax, or anything for that matter, is going to have a particular effect. So you need to have a larger sample size, better controls, etc. And there just isn't enough research like that on flax. So Unarmed Fever 3, I'm probably maybe mispronouncing that, asks, do I drink coffee? Yes, I do. I have about 2 big glasses a day at least, sometimes 3 to 4, depends on the day. But yeah, I usually do kick off with coffee, not before my workout. I kind of stop coffee around like noon to 3. But during the fasting period, I sort of have about 2 to 4 cups of black coffee. I don't put anything in it, black coffee a day. And that's because it has purported anti-cancer and longevity benefits. And I've done videos on coffee many, many times. You can find them if you search in my videos. If you search for coffee or caffeine, you'll find a load of videos regarding the benefits of coffee. Now, that's not to say there aren't people out there that that you know, have problems with coffee, because there are. I mean, there are people who have you know, they react poorly to the caffeine content of coffee. Maybe it prevents them from sleeping. Maybe it gives them the jitters, or maybe in some cases it enhances certain psychological issues they may have. If people are experiencing problems or have been diagnosed with problems that are exacerbated by coffee, then don't drink coffee. But for those who don't seem to have any problems with caffeine or coffee, well, there you go. There are benefits to drinking coffee. And I think one of the reasons why coffee specifically, and not taking caffeine pills, is because the flavonoids, or something that are in coffee, they do something to protect or it's the other way around, is the caffeine that protects the flavonoids in coffee. You have to have coffee. You can't just take caffeine pills. And it's caffeinated coffee specifically that seems to have these effects. Let's see here. Dr. Greger has mentioned that cooking high-fat, high-protein foods like tofu at high temperature will generate IGF-1. Thoughts? I've not seen anything about that, so I really can't comment. We know that foods like tofu contain or can boost IGF-1, and the reason for that is they have a high leucine content. That seems to be the factor that causes that. But keep in mind that the IGF-1 increases you get from food is not the same thing as like an IGF-1 increase from injecting it in your ass or wherever you inject IGF-1. It's not steady. It doesn't elevate it for long periods of time, and it doesn't elevate it all too much by comparison. So I wouldn't really worry about it too much from what I've seen. It looks like it's a transient sort of effect. In other words, you down some soy, and for about 30 minutes or so, your IGF levels are boosted, but then it returns to baseline. So unless you're like, in an ungodly way, like slamming soy like every 30 minutes, which I don't think anyone's actually doing, or soy protein isolate or one of those, I don't think you have to worry too much about the IGF-1 issues if you're just a normal, healthy adult, from what I've seen. But then again, I'm not a doctor. But let's put it this way: from what I've seen, I don't concern myself over it enough that I, avoid soy or something, or soy protein powders in some way, because I don't see an issue from it. So I'm not worried about it causing cancer. Although if you elevate IGF-1 for too long, like if you're injecting it, yeah, you're going to put yourself at risk for disease. This is why I don't recommend drugs. Is it healthy to consume acidic foods with coffee, like oranges, apple juice, and the like? I've not seen anything about that with regards to doing so or not doing so. It's something that I don't know anything about, so I'd have to actually look into before I could offer any kind of advice. But let's put it this way: I've not read anything about that. I've never even heard anything about that before. So that's where I stand on that, I guess, which is not really standing anywhere, except I don't know. What do I think about other YouTubers? Christina Carter asks. Depends on what YouTuber you're talking about. There are a lot of YouTubers I like. There are a lot of YouTubers I don't like. And it might, or YouTubers I just don't have an opinion on, really. I mean, I'm friends with Isaac of Ask Yourself. I'm friends with Richard Vegan Gains. We chat every now and then. In fact, Richard and I had we did a Skype call about 2 weeks ago, or about a week and a half ago or something like that. And I had a call with Isaac earlier in the week, I believe, or middle of the week sometime. We chat every now and then. We talk on Facebook and things like that. They're intellectuals, so it's nice to talk with them. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of YouTube I just don't watch. I don't really have time for it, I guess. YouTubers coming out against vegans that eat a carnivore. Wait, what? Christina's asking YouTubers that coming out against vegans that eat a carnivore diet. So I don't see a problem with vegans being upset with people turning carnivore. I wouldn't see a problem with anyone being upset with someone turning carnivore, considering the negative data on meat and cancer, of course, and high cholesterol and health. It just seems stupid and like a fad diet. But there's so many stupid fad diets come and go all the time that aren't necessarily healthy. I mean, look at Atkins. And people follow those because they see numerous other people follow. The snake diet's an example. I think recently Cole, the snake diet, made or implied that he could help people cure HIV and AIDS with his fucking snake diet. It's absurd. I mean, a claim like that could actually get you in trouble. But yeah, the carnivore thing is just stupid in my opinion. Like the research we have on red meats, especially, and on cholesterol, it renders it completely absurd. And my issue with a lot of these vegans, that Sferi, however it's pronounced, is or Sferrier, is interviewing that are leaving veganism because veganism fucks them up, or their teeth are rotting, their hair is falling out, or whatever they want to claim. They're losing muscle. If you look at a lot of them, Now, I haven't sat down and taken all of them and done like a spreadsheet to see what the consistent trends are, but I've noticed that a lot of them were high raw, or raw. They were high carb, low fat. These are stupid trends to be following. They're just stupid trends to be following. And in my opinion, these are examples of people who fucked up on their diet. They fucked up on their approach. And they're blaming veganism for their own stupidity instead of taking responsibility and thinking, hey, maybe I shouldn't have followed a freely style diet because it's dumb. And now I'm suffering the consequences from it. Oh, fuck veganism. It must be veganism's fault. No, I mean, I haven't had meat since 2002. I've been a vegan since 2013. Now, I know this is anecdote, but I approach my vegan nutrition in a very scientific way. I go by the research. People need to be intelligent about how they approach their diet. I don't care how you're eating. I don't care if you're a vegan, you're a vegetarian, you're an omnivore. If you approach your diet in a stupid way and you get fat and get sick or whatever else, you need to take a step back and realize that maybe it's not, that particular foods were necessarily bad for you. Like maybe if it's not bananas are bad for you, it's because you did something stupid with your diet and you're just not taking responsibility for it. So you're blaming, a food source or an entire dietary method approach, that sort of thing. And I'm noticing this trend amongst these ex-vegans, and it's just, it's absurd and it's irritating. I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, I could do a video about it, but one of the reasons why I've not done a video about it is because there's just so many of them, and it would just be an exorbitant amount of time to like debunk every fucking single one of them. So that's why I've not done a response video to a lot of these Asperia ex-vegan videos. Anywho, moving along. Let's see here. Yeah, Hardin says the study on flax you're referencing is most likely an anti-vegan study funded by animal agriculture. I mean, I don't know about that, Hardin. I mean, all I know is that I didn't really look into necessarily who funded the research myself personally. I just looked at how bad the quality of the research was. I mean, when you're trying to demonize a particular food and you're selecting people that are naturally going to have health problems to begin with, and literally hormone problems to begin with, like people who have diabetes, people who are obese and overweight, or are going through menopause or are postmenopausal, their hormones are already going to be fucked up because of what their current conditions. It's not, and then to blame that on a particular food product is just stupid. It's stupid. It's bad research. You need to select from a healthy population, and you need to have good controls. You can't just feed 10 obese women that have diabetes who are all menopausal flax seeds, find out that like 8 of the 10 end up with, or have like even worse testosterone issues or estrogen issues than than they did before, and assume that, oh, that must be because of the flax seeds. You need to have a control group. You need to have proper controls in research. There's so much bad research out there. I mean, there's good research and there's bad research. And this is why I always emphasize in my videos that like this study had X, Y, and Z controls. It was randomized. It was, it had like, 5 different groups of people. It used healthy males, like with the soy studies. I always use studies that are on healthy men, not men that are diabetic, etc., which can affect hormones. Doneboy says he has a history with Atkins and it's trash. Yeah, I don't promote any straight keto. I do not see an issue with people who want to use like a cyclic vegan keto approach, but there's a lot of issues that can creep up if you're using straight keto, especially if you're an athlete. Let's see here. Have I ever heard of mewing? No, not unless it's what cats do. So, hey, Cory, do you buy your fruits and veggies from a special market or some source of you trust or know uses the least amount of toxins and pesticides? I just buy from Whole Foods Market, or I order on Amazon fresh from Whole Foods Market. I whatever happens to be on offer. Like I don't even necessarily buy organic. I just like pick up whatever is like on offer. because the research on GMOs is sort of, now I'm not saying the research on like, Roundup, but like the research on GMOs is either neutral or positive. Like a lot of the conspiracies have been sort of shot down by the meta-analysis that exists. Now, I mean, I'm open to seeing something that shows, something to the contrary, but that's what I've seen so far. I'm sure that a low-carb vegan diet is better than Atkins. Well, they've actually compared low-carb, a high-fat, low-carb vegan approach to a sort of a standard Western diet that was non-vegan. And they've actually found that even people who were obese, who ate a high-fat, low-carb vegan diet. Now, they didn't use coconut oil; they used vegetable oil. They actually lost weight. Well, they were in a calorie deficit. It's going to happen. Even on a keto diet, you've got to be in a calorie deficit if you want to lose weight. But they actually improved their lipid profiles and markers for heart disease, etc., despite being on a high-fat vegan diet. But it was the vegan aspect, I believe, that void of course, animal cholesterol and animal fats, that appears to have that sort of benefit. So it looks like that if you'd like to try a vegan keto approach, it doesn't have the same negative impacts that like an Atkins approach would have. But I still recommend, if you are going to do that you have a carb refeed once a week, especially if you were an athlete. Now wait till you keto adapt first, obviously, because that's typically how a cyclic keto diet works. So take about 10 to 14 days to get adapted to keto. Sometimes longer. It can sometimes take a month for some folks. Then when you're keto adapted, you can have like a refeed where you kind of reverse it, where you're high carb, low fat for a day. Your protein will stay the same. And then the other 6 days of the week, you go back to your normal high fat, moderate protein, low carb diet, and just kind of like cycle that every 7 days from there on. That's how a cyclic keto diet works. And it does things like rejuvenate certain hormones that begin to decline when you're too low carb for too long. Keep in mind that when you start re-ingesting carbohydrates, your cortisol levels lower, and lower cortisol levels can mean higher testosterone and lower estrogen, because higher cortisol levels can actually increase your estrogen and lower your testosterone. So that's one of the negative effects of being on low carb for too long. And that's why a cyclic approach can help with that. It also can help give you a bit of a glycogen boost for your lifting for the week to come. So am I pals with Hench Herbivore? I mean, I have his shirt. I've talked to him a bit now and then. I would say we're more acquaintances than good friends or anything like that. We've chatted, but that's nothing at length or anything like that. Just some like messages or something, I think on Facebook or something along those lines. And he's commented on some of my videos. I actually have spent more time talking with Isaac and Richard than I have actually most other YouTubers. I've spent a considerable amount of time speaking with Isaac, at least, and Richard, I'd say next most. Let's see here. What do I think of Joey Carbstrong? I actually don't know Joey too well. I know he's friends with Isaac. I honestly can't. I don't have a negative or positive opinion, because I don't really I haven't really had any interaction with him, to be honest. So yeah, can't really comment there. Rebirth says, I think we need to concede that a vegan diet is hard to get right. I think that's only the case if you're an idiot. Sorry to be blunt about this, but take your B12. You know that it's not prevalent in a lot of foods that are considered vegan friendly. Take your B12. Unless you're eating dirt, take your B12. Make sure you're getting flax seeds or chia seeds or hemp seeds for ALA. Take a DHA EPA supplement per day. There's vegan algae-based sourced DHA EPA out there. And of course, everything else is based on your needs. So if you find yourself deficient in vitamin D3, like for example, African Americans or anybody with darker skin in the Northern Hemisphere, it's been shown in research about 10 times more likely to be D deficient, and therefore more likely to develop things like rickets and that sort of thing. So if you are, for instance, a darker skinned person in the Northern Hemisphere, consider supplementing a D vitamin. A lot of this stuff is just, it's basic. Like, a lot of these vitamins and minerals you should be supplementing as you have a deficiency. Like if you get blood work done, you find out, oh, fuck, I'm deficient in vitamin D, supplement D. You know, if you're not getting enough of it from sun, or you're not converting enough of the D2 in your diet. You know, it's pretty simple. And these fad diets, these fucking fad diets, like you know, high carb, low fat, when I say low fat, I mean like 5-10% of your diet coming from fat. You know, where somebody's telling you to live all day on like a fruitarian sort of diet, where it's like all mangoes and you know, bananas and whatever else. It's just it's absurd. It's absurd. You need fat for absorption of fat soluble vitamins. You need it for hair and skin health. You need it for cellular integrity. You need it for your hormones. And we know how much you need too. Like 20% of your maintenance calories should be coming from fat. So if you don't know what that is, just take 15 times your lean body weight, which is the better measure, and you can get a rough estimate for your maintenance calories, and then take 20% of that, and there you go. That's how many grams per day or calories per day you need to be consuming of fat for your health. So I really think it comes down to not following stupid fad diets. And even non-vegans, like they who jump from veganism to carnivore. Well, carnivore is a fad diet. You know, they're going to end up with problems from that as well. So, and I don't care about the anecdote of like, oh, well, Jordan Peterson's daughter, you know, claims this and this and that and the next thing, and she's been carnivore for X number of years, and her blood work shows this and that and the next thing. I don't care. It's anecdote. You know, how do we know she's not, you know, fudging the blood work results? How do we know she's actually carnivore? There's we don't have controls in place to actually know that she is doing what she says she's doing as accurately as she says she's doing it, and the results she's showing are actually not manipulated in some way. Anyway, if somebody's asked about Jordan Peterson's daughter, so you know, it's kind of funny how I brought that up. Moving along, Lance G says, Cory, I didn't receive a notification. Anyways, do you think a lifter that has been lifting for only a year can use your muscle building program? I would say if you've only been going for about a year, to stick with the Rocket Old School routine. I would say if you've done at least 2 years and you've really worked on your lifts. I mean, what's more important is your lifts. You can start considering things like Upgraded Man. If you've hit like at least intermediate numbers, you know, like a 225 bench, a 140, 150 standing overhead press, you know, at least a 400 deadlift, your squat is at least a 315. You can consider the Upgraded Man, you know, because it's going to push you really fucking hard. And but I would start with if you're more of a beginner or have only been doing it for about a year, your numbers aren't quite at the intermediate level, or you just only have 3 days a week to dedicate to lifting, then I would recommend Rocket Old School. Now, Beast Mode by Science, really anybody who's got about a year's lifting experience could probably follow that, you know, mostly because of the volume recommendations in it. But that's more of a program for aesthetics, not so much strength. The other programs I've developed since have been more geared towards strength and size, not just really a beach body. But I have something for everybody. So, you know, it depends on what your goals are and where you're at, really. Let's see here. Rebro says he thinks that the vegan diet works for an anal meticulous person, but that's a bit less than 5% of the population in general. You know, I really don't think so. Again, I think it comes down to not following fad diets. And if you're a vegan, I don't think it takes an anal person to realize you need to supplement with certain, you know, vitamins and minerals, or if you're deficient in something, supplement to fill that gap. The problem is you have all these vegans that have this kind of I guess a purist sort of approach where they refuse to supplement for some fucking reason. They refuse to supplement, and they think they can get everything they need from like fruits and vegetables. And unfortunately, you can't do that. You can't do that. You know, you do need to supplement in areas that if you're going to eat certain kinds of foods, like if you're going to eat more of a fruit-based diet, make sure you're supplementing the things that fruits aren't going to provide to you. you know, you got to be cognizant of that. Anywho, about not receiving notifications, Lance. Yeah, people have been complaining about that for a while. I don't know what to do. YouTube just sort of doesn't want to promote my channel. So, you know, that's why I recommend everybody kind of like checks out at least once a week when I've got a video, because you probably aren't going to receive a notification. Sometimes you can search my name and not even see my latest video in the search feed. Like it, I mean, I might have put something out and it doesn't appear in the search feed. So it is what it is. You know, YouTube has their reasons and has their methods, and what can I say? Golden One did a video on mewing. It's kind of like that video did in jaw strength. Well, my video on jaw size and strength, like building up a stronger jawline for men, was based on research. Like, you know, so I don't know what Golden One's recommending, but I don't know of any exercises that you can really do besides maybe clenching your jaw during deadlifts, which is not really a direct exercise, so to speak, that you can do besides what I recommended with the gum in that jaw video. Can I make another video on how I can be more attractive with science? I'm actually planning on a video, another video about attraction soon, because some new research came out with regards to strength. And I thought it was kind of interesting. Kind of, and in some ways, not just interesting, but sort of reaffirms something I keep telling everybody here: to better yourselves. You know, be the best version of yourself that you possibly can be. If you're trying to attract a mate, and this goes for women as well, you know, have respect for yourself first and better yourself, and you'll attract a better mate that way, and you'll improve your, you know, your market value. You know, we can't all be blessed with a beautiful face. You know, maybe we're not all blessed with the best, you know, insertions on our bodies, but you can do the best you can with what you've got instead of just resigning to defeat, you know? And you can work on your personality too. I think that's the big problem a lot of guys have, is that maybe they've got the body, you know, maybe they have the looks too, but their personality is shit, so they can't maintain the women they do attract, because they just have a bad personality, or they have no personality, and they just turn a person off. Like you know, it's like almost an instant turn off. You can't expect that your body or your face is going to get you everywhere in life. I mean, there are a lot of beautiful people out there who are alone. You would think, how is this person not in a relationship constantly? But believe it or not, there are people out there, and there are articles about this, people who would be considered conventionally attractive, good symmetry and everything in their face, but they're literally alone, you know? And there are factors for that sort of thing. And those factors do include bad personality. It can also include, too, the way you present yourself in public. Also, I guess there is something to be said that if you are so attractive that people feel kind of inferior to you, like for instance, a guy sees a woman who's like radiantly beautiful, and maybe he feels like, well, there's no point in me approaching this girl because she's way out of my league. You know, and maybe she's single, maybe she wants somebody to approach her, anybody to approach her, then she can pick and choose from there. But there actually are attractive people who complain about the fact that they never get approached. Women, I'm talking about women here, not necessarily men, because men should be doing the approaching. But there are beautiful women that complain they don't get approached. Now, it could also be they have a resting bitch face, as people call it, and so nobody wants to approach them. And that's where personality comes in too. You know, you should look warm and inviting. Ladies, that's a tip for you. Look warm and inviting, because maybe even the most confident guys won't feel like approaching somebody they think is going to be a bitch to them for no reason. Anyway, you could also say feminism's to blame to some degree for all this shit. Do I think French President Macron is done? His approval rating is astronomically low. You think that Trump has a bad approval rating according to the mainstream media? Well, French President Macron has like an 18% rating. It's something absurd. I think the lowest I've ever seen the MSN rank Trump was like something in the 40s. We're looking at 18%. That's really bad. And with all the yellow coat riots, now I don't know what's happened over the course of the weekend. I heard they wanted to storm the palace or whatever it is that Macron works from or lives in. I don't know much about the French political houses and what have you, but I heard they were going to storm that this weekend, and security was preparing for that. But they're sending a pretty clear message that they do not like him. They do not want globalism. They do not want their open borders, which goes hand in hand with the globalism. And they don't want these migrants who are not integrating into their societies and who are just basically living off the dole and basically ruining the quality of life for everybody else around them. And of course, I don't blame them. I mean, who wants to live in a country where you remember a time where you didn't have such ridiculously high rape rates and you didn't have such ridiculously high crime rates and you didn't walk out into your city and basically have it look like a shithole like San Francisco looks like? You know, you remember these days and you suddenly see the stark contrast and you see the reason why. You can't blame the French for that. And I'm starting to see this creeping up all over Europe. You have the Germans are doing it. The Dutch are doing it. The Italians have already said no, and they've hired a populist leader. The Hungarians have constantly said no, and Poland has constantly said no, despite the fact that Poland's going to probably be hurt the most by the EU, cutting them off as punishment for not accepting migrant quotas. But anyway, yeah. That's my take on that. I do think that Macron's in trouble. I do think he's in trouble, and I think that all globalist leaders across Europe, and this includes people like Merkel, are should count their days basically. And I don't mean that in the sense of death. I mean in the sense that they count their days in the sense of support. So you can't behave a certain way and expect people are going to keep following you. What do I think of lab-grown meat? Well, I mean, it's better than slaughtering an animal for it. But me personally, the smell of meat makes me sick. So even if there were lab-grown options for beef or chicken or what have you, I wouldn't have any interest because of the fact that I just am appalled by the smell alone. It's just grotesque to me. So. Yeah, I don't personally care about it. I mean, but if it helps save the lives of animals, I think it's a good idea, but I don't personally care. Cory, is an updated video on skincare in the works. Hello from Hawaii. Love the channel, says Rebirth. I've said everything I have to say on skincare. There is a new trick that I have, but I can't really say it's science-based, but I've had some I don't like to present to you guys things that aren't really science-based because I feel like I'm making a broad recommendation for something that I have no evidence to support. So there are things that I do that you could say I find works for me in some capacity, but there may just not be research to show why, but it just seems logical. An example would be whenever I've showered, obviously I'll have a very warm shower. I'll come out and I'll put cold water, I mean like really cold water from the tap on my face, and I feel it tighten my skin. Obviously it closes up the pores and it sort of just tightens the skin. And once I've done that, then I moisturize my face afterwards, and I feel like it's like a Botox, like a at-home Botox kind of effect. And I've been doing that for a while, and I keep getting compliments, but I don't know if that's really doing anything, but I do it because it doesn't take more than a few seconds. Whatever. I do it in the morning too. I'll splash warm water on my face first and then instantly contrast with cold water. And then I'll put on the moisturizer in the morning too. But keep in mind, it's also genetics too. It's how you eat. You can't expect skin creams and moisturizers and skin tricks like that to actually do it all for you if you're eating a low antioxidant, diet that's going to, age you faster, or you engage in things like smoking, or you engage in things like drinking alcohol, or you get a lot of sun exposure and you don't protect yourself or cover yourself. You can't expect that just throwing on cream is going to help because there are other things you could be doing. Exercise helps. You've got to take care of yourself from multiple directions and angles. to improve how you age. And also there's an element of genetics too, obviously. Like people in my family just age slower, visibly slower than other people do. But yeah, lifestyle does play a big role. I mean, I've always been surprised by there's people that I meet that are like 17, 18 years old who look like they're in their mid-late 20s. It's pretty sad. But then again, they're partiers. They excessively party. They don't get enough sleep. They probably smoke. They definitely drink. And you can't expect that you're going to age gracefully if you damage your body, especially from the inside. So, anyway, let's see here. There's an argument going on here about pets and pet food and all that. I don't know anything about dogs and B12 supplements, so I'm just going to kind of leave that alone. I actually don't have any pets at the moment. I used to raise birds. I raised budgerigars, and I've raised, when I lived in Australia, I hand-reared cockatiels as well. I've had finches too. I went through a phase where if I was in like a pet store to buy bird seeds for one of my existing birds that I had raised, and I found a bird that was hurt. It was being abused. It looks like it was on the edge of death, basically. I know I shouldn't support a bird store, but or a pet store in general, but I can't just let it die there. So I would buy these sickly birds, and I would take them home and bring them back to health, and usually would give them a name that was reflective of them being sick. Like one of the finches I saved was completely bald. He had been removing his own feathers from his body, and then other finches were abusing him because he was very weak and sick, and I guess that's how birds behave. Yeah, I nursed him back to having feathers again and everything, and back to health, and he lived a very long life. And I called him Baldy because he was bald. So yeah, I mean, I've done that, but I don't have any current pets or animals. I've had birds that have been born in my care as well by birds that I've taken care of. But yeah, but I don't currently have any pets, and I don't really have any advice on like dogs and B12 or things like that. Am I still into investigating Christianity? Anyways, I wanted to know if it's okay to get tattoos. I have no idea about. I don't personally like tattoos. That's a personal thing. I don't know if Christians are against tattoos or not. Yes, I am still investigating Christianity. In fact, when I get off this call, which I have to do shortly, I'm actually going to be having a discussion / debate with a couple Catholics about Christian apologetics. You see, I don't like rhetoric. I'm looking for people to convince me through argument. I'm looking at archaeological evidence. I'm looking at medical evidence. Believe it or not, there are papers about the death of Christ in JAMA, the Journal of American Medicine. So a big respected journal has done papers on the crucifixion of Christ. So yeah, I am still exploring it, but I looked at things like C.S. Lewis, who was influenced by J.R.R. Tolkien, and C.S. Lewis was a devout atheist who became a Christian in his 30s. He was very convinced by some Oxford professor, I believe it was Oxford, maybe it was Cambridge, and J.R.R. Tolkien, and he became a Christian. But a lot of Tolkien's arguments so far that I've discovered have been rhetoric, and I'm just not interested in rhetoric or beautiful wordplay. I'm more interested in facts, And I recently watched the film The Case for Christ, and there's a book that's more comprehensive by an investigative journalist who was an atheist who turned Christian because he tried to disprove Christianity and ended up converting himself. And it was a thought-provoking film. I haven't read the book, which obviously be more detailed. And there's other books like forensics cases for Christ by forensic scientists and things like that. But I haven't explored those yet. I haven't had a lot of time. So I'm doing it kind of in my own time. But no, I'm not a Christian yet. I'm just exploring Christianity. So I want to make that clear, because there are people who think that I'm a Christian now, and I've not committed to anything like that. I'm just exploring it. What do I think about the vegetable police? I think he might have a mental issue or something. You know, there's a lot of vegans with mental problems, a lot of them. But I think he might have a mental issue, and identity issues as well. But I don't know the guy too well, so I don't want to sit here and judge someone I don't really know. You know, I don't particularly want to sit around judging anybody, really, to be honest. I mean, I can criticize people's positions, but I'm not going to sit there and criticize the person. That's not really an intellectual way to go about taking apart, you know, what somebody believes. You know. Pat asks, how can I tell if I'm pregnant? Get a pregnancy test. Do you have morning sickness and other signs? If you are showing signs of pregnancy, if you missed a period, I would suggest you get a pregnancy test. You can get some of these first response pregnancy tests that can give you I think that can actually give you a relatively accurate pregnancy result, like a week or two after conception, you know, from what I understand. So get a pregnancy test. I don't know why you're asking me this. I'm not like a walking pregnancy test. I don't even know you. Anywho, let's move along here, because I'm gonna wrap this up soon. So yeah, somebody is asking if Pack Hectic is joking about the pregnancy. It must be trolling, but that's probably one of the wildest questions I've ever been asked on here. So I'm going to answer 3 more questions. I'm just going to kind of see if there's a super chat first. I don't see any. So I don't think I see any, but double check. No, I don't see any super chats. So I'm just going to go through 3 quick. I want to make sure, if somebody pays me a super chat, I want to make sure I get to it. So I'm just going to randomly select something. So how to get a lot of zinc on a vegan diet. I have been vegan for 3 years and think that I might have developed a zinc deficiency. Should I aim for a higher intake due to bioavailability of plants? You could supplement with zinc. I do have a ZMA product that I use. You could supplement with zinc. You could also, just like, if you go on Google, there are a number of plant foods that are high in zinc. Just make sure you're getting some of those. I believe nuts and seeds have a lot of zinc in them. Don't quote me on that. I would look on Google, type in vegan foods high in zinc, and you'll get like a laundry list of vegan foods that are high in zinc. And make sure you're getting enough of the things you enjoy from that list. And that would be my recommendation. If you still are concerned, I would get like a zinc supplement. You know, ZMA is good because it's got a decent form of zinc in it, and it's got the amount you'd need per day too. So I would look into that, and you can get them really cheap. You can get like a ZMA that will last you 2 months or 3 months for like $10. So it's not that expensive. Rebirth says, sadly, most humans have no sympathy for birds at all, so they have no problem eating chickens. Birds are incredibly intelligent and have great little well, I won't say it's great little personalities. Some of the birds I've had have been assholes. Like, I mean, literally, they've been assholes. Like, I had this one bird who liked to scream in my ear, and I'd be working, for instance. I let them have free range. So they'd fly around my home. I would keep their cage open until they wanted to go to bed at night, and then they would let themselves back in their cage. And then I would close their cage, because in the dark, you know, it's better for a bird to be in a house, at least inside of a confine like that, so they can go to sleep on their perches. But I would leave their cage doors open whenever I was home, and that way I can monitor them too, so they don't like chew on electric wires or things like that. I am a musician, so I have a lot of amplifiers and things like that about. But like, I would have this one bird who would fly over and land on my shoulder. She would scream in my ear and then take a big shit on my shoulder, then fly off. And sometimes this other bird would fly over and just like start chewing on my ear and like pulling it like this and scream in my face. And, you know, I like those birds, they bossed me around. You know, I love them to death, though. They're wonderful, but they had such personalities, all of them. Although, like I said, some of them, their personality was that of an asshole. So the birds are definitely a little opinionated creatures. and they're very, 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 very smart. I think African Greys, for instance, have the intelligence of like a 7-year-old child or a 10-year-old child or something like that. I can't remember the exact figure, but they have a pretty high intelligence for a bird. So anyway, I do love birds quite a lot. Edward says, ha ha ha, I'm about to go to church. I mean, I haven't really been for a service, but I've sat in some Catholic churches just because I like the atmosphere, the ambiance of the church. So I have done that. And I mean, I like the architecture too. You know, not even for anything particular going on, but I've gone to a number of churches. There's some really great churches here in this area that I live in here in New York. There's a really nice one over by Rockefeller Center. I think it's called St. Patrick's. It's beautiful. It's giant. Tourists come and look at it all the time, and it's got a gorgeous interior, and it's just got a nice atmosphere. You know, it's so. Even with all the people, there's something about the way it sort of deadens the sound of like a lot of the clamoring, the talking around you. And you can literally sit in a pew by yourself when there's no service going on, and you just it's just peaceful. It's very peaceful. And there's some churches I visited in London like that as well. Really old Gothic style architecture, because I kind of spend time in London and New York. You know, the two cities are quite a lot. I go back and forth. Anywho, let me pick out one more thing here. So, Tom Rebirth asks Tom, how do you know you're zinc deficient? Well, I don't know if the guy got a blood work done, but if you also, one way you might be able to tell that you have some kind of a deficiency, perhaps, or you have some kind of a problem in general, is signs of low testosterone. It has been shown time and again in research that low zinc levels lead to significantly lower testosterone levels. And that is sorted out when you start taking a zinc supplement. Now, I'm not saying zinc is the only reason why you could have low testosterone, but if you are noticing things like lethargy, low sex drive, depression, and this is for a guy, weight gain without really any ability to take it off, these can be signs of depressed testosterone levels. And yes, lower zinc can be one of the causes. Another cause could be diabetes, you know, not eating enough fat. There are a lot of reasons why you could have low testosterone. There can even be environmental factors too. So another question. Johnny D says, Cory, I had wisdom teeth surgery yesterday. I've actually had my wisdom teeth pulled before. A long time ago. And I can't really eat much except for protein shakes, yogurt, and ice cream. Any other recommendations? That's basically what I did. For about 2 weeks to prevent dry socket, which is what they called it at the time, I would basically drink protein shakes, and I would make smoothies. Like, so at that time I was vegetarian. This was back in 2002, I think, that I had my wisdom teeth pulled. And I was vegetarian. So back then there was this brand, I think it's called Spirulina. I think actually that's a vegan product, if I'm not mistaken. But they had like cookies and cream in various flavors, tropical flavors, that kind of thing. I would put a couple scoops of that in with some bananas and other fruits and vegetables that were kind of going to go together pretty well. And I would blend that up, and I would sip that through a straw. And of course I'd have a multivitamin, because you can just pop that in your tongue and drop it back with the smoothie to make sure I wasn't getting any kind of deficiencies. And I did that for about 2 weeks until I had healed up very quickly from the removal of my wisdom teeth. Actually, the doctor had expected it would be like 4 weeks to 5 weeks, but I had done it in 2. And I was able to start eating solid foods again, slowly but surely. Eat them again. Just make sure I don't open up the wounds back there. But I would make sure I was chewing close to the front of the mouth and things like that. But I was eating things like tofu. So it wasn't, you know, and mock meats and that kind of thing. So it wasn't that hard to chew that kind of stuff. It wasn't like it was like an apple. I actually avoided things like apples because they are harder foods, and they might have opened up create a dry socket, open up the wounds. So Rebirth says, Cory is the only vegan on YouTube I know that doesn't have mental or anger issues. Sad but true. I don't know about not mental issues, but anger. Sometimes I can get pretty angry, and I've been angry in videos before, but I try not to make a habit of it, because it's not a healthy place to be. I can't say I'm angry all the time, But yeah, there are sometimes you'll notice that I'm doing a video response about something and I'll get noticeably pissed off. You know, and that definitely happens around political and social shit. Sometimes I get really pissed off about just the absurdities. But yeah, I try to be as reasonable and as leveled as I possibly can too. So, all right, I'm going to answer one more question, and then I'm gonna call it. So, Anon says, as a long-armed guy, how do you remind yourself to stay defensively responsible? I've noticed that my arms keep extending or loosening up during fights, even when I feel like my guard is tight. I've not actually really had that kind of problem. I guess be cognizant of your depth of field, really. So if you're blocking a kick coming in, you know, you're not overextending your arm and you're kind of keeping it tight. It's really about, I guess, practicing what works with your body and your anatomy. And I mean, if you are blocking a kick, I mean, I would recommend, obviously, like you know, you should be able to be fast. One, you should support the block, you know, with another hand over here. You don't want to break. You don't want to like loosen up. You want to keep it tight because you could break your wrist. And you want to get into the softest part of the kick, so it's the inner thigh. You want to kind of move in, and that's what frightens a lot of people. But as a more advanced fighter and intermediate fighter, you learn how to negotiate around someone's kick. You can see the kick coming, and you can get yourself in time. By not taking the foot to your face, essentially. And then, you know, sometimes you have to absorb the blow. You can use your, you can like kind of come low for a lower kick, and you can use the side of your leg to block a really low kick. So yeah, I mean, I guess just work with your anatomy, learn your anatomy, and kind of develop an automated response that's a certain length. It's the best way to put it. I never had this problem, but I guess. But yeah, just work with people who kick a lot. Practice, have someone kick you a lot, you know, as stupid as that sounds, and just practice until it becomes second nature. Martial arts, your response should become like breathing. It should become like a learned breathing. You should become, it should be like a spoken language. That's the best way to describe it. Anyway, guys, I'm going to call it off there. I got something I got to go take care of. I will see you all in the next video. And don't forget to check out the products and services below. Thank you all for tuning in. And have a good rest of your weekend. Take care.